There we go. Hi.
Hey Mariah, how you doing?
Good, thanks. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me all right?
Great. Yes.
Sure. So, how you doing today, Mariah? It's good to have you on the podcast. Thanks for doing it. Thanks for doing it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Yeah. I'm doing good. It's Monday. So getting the week.
It is Monday, and those are the Mondays for me are. I wonder if it's the same way with you, Mariah. Are some of the busiest days are Mondays, just because that's when everybody's answering back emails from the weekends. Then you're having to follow up. Then you're having to do a lot of other things to take care of the days that follow in the week.
Very true. Very true. Mondays, I think in general, anyways, I think whoever created Monday was like, this is the day that's going to freak and stress everybody out. It's the beginning of the work week. So you're like, kind of like you said, gearing up for the rest of the week. So yeah, it's Monday, but it's a great day for new beginnings and to get some work done.
Well, Mariah, look, I wanted to get you on here because I am a big fan of you. I'm a big fan of the first season of Next
Oh
Level
no, something
Chef.
happened.
Are you there? Can
It
you hear me?
froze. It's frozen. Okay, yes.
Okay. Uh, I'm excited to have you on. I'm a big fan of you. I'm a big fan of the Next Level Chef TV show, which I was late to watching. I'll give you that. I come in the third week because for me, and I'll be honest with you, I was like, another cooking show. Like they have so many of them, and I was like, another cooking show competition, another Gordon Ramsay, who I love, but I'm like, come on, Gordon,
Right.
you're little everywhere now. It's like The Rock. And
Yeah.
I was like, but I had a friend of mine. He was like, you should really check it out. And then once I checked it out, I was like, then you realize once you check it out that it's a whole different ball game than just a competition cooking show.
Very true. It kind of becomes addicting, like the adrenaline rush. Even me watching it as a viewer, I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Oh my gosh, this is crazy. Yeah, totally different vibes than any other cooking show for sure.
Well, look, let's just jump right into it because we kind of don't have. I know you got to go, and we don't really have that much time. But so before you were a cook, is it true that you started as a makeup artist? Is that right?
Oh, yeah, you're going back. Yeah, so one of my stories, yes, I was an esthetician in San Francisco, where I did makeup artistry and skincare. So that was one of my earlier career choices. I've always been very creative, and I think that's why makeup artistry for me was a great way to express myself creatively.
So then you go from doing that to being a flight attendant. And I've got a question about being a flight attendant because you see all these people now, and so the question would be, so being that you were a flight attendant for so many years, you know, did you ever have to deal with like unruly passengers? And if so, how did you take care of them? Because people now, flight attendants now are taping people to the seats.
I know, right? They didn't do that when I was flying, but I know I was looking at duct taping people to the seats. Like, what is going? I got out right in time. Yeah, being a flight attendant, you know, was challenging, like you said, dealing with and really passengers. It's funny because you have a lot of similarities in the kitchen. It's like I don't know what it is, but when you put people in like a tight space,
Mm.
it's hot, there's pressure. It's like people just start acting crazy, kind of like in the kitchen, or like on a plane. It heightens people's normal reactions and how they would deal with things. So I've had a lot of experiences on the plane. One probably that sticks out the most is when I had to help deliver a baby on an aircraft.
Now, how what's the okay? So they come to you. They're like, "Hey, this woman is having a kid, a baby." What is like your first? It's like kind of like a fight or flight type of thing, right? It's like we're in it or nothing. So kind of what's the steps to do that as a flight attendant that has like probably no experience in childbirth at all?
It's crazy because I wish it was that simple where someone would walk up to you and be like, hey, this lady's having a baby, but it was
Oh,
so
okay.
chaotic. Being a flight attendant, a lot of people don't understand that we go, or when I was a flight attendant, we would have to go through an extensive amount of training with first aid, medical, heart attack, uh, a lot of similarities to what like an EMT would have to go through, as well as with safety, doing mock plane crashes. And, if you're landing in water, I remember in training, we had to do all these scenarios in a pool with flotation devices. And so a lot of, flight attendants don't get the credit, it's not about serving drinks. That's just kind of like the filler. Really, flight attendants are there for safety and medical reasons. So, but with the childbirth, that's not really something they prepare you for, because you're really not supposed to be flying that close to giving birth. So that was an unusual circumstance. And it happened on my way to Africa. So it wasn't like we could just land somewhere. It was just kind of like, in my mind, I'm like, I could do this. Like, I've seen a couple medical shows, like I got this. But it was pretty gross, and it's not something I would ever want to do again on a plane. It wasn't pretty at all. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you say that you think you could do it, which I say that all the time. Like, I'm in the middle of rewatching Breaking Bad for like the fourth time, right? And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, if I ever get cancer, I know what I'm doing. I know how to make crystal meth. I'm gonna be selling that shit on the sidewalks. I'll be Walter Whiting it.
Yeah. It's funny. They're replaying it right now too. So I catch myself. I'm like, maybe I need to start this over. That's such a great series.
Oh, in my opinion, it's one of the greatest shows ever to be created, because like it was only there for 5 seasons. And there's only like 10 episodes a season, so it's like it's not long at all, but they get right to the point. First episode, boom, you know what's happening. And it's like some shows can go on for 26 seasons and you forget, what happened in any season, let alone the last one.
Right. That's how I feel about Walking Dead. Like, I started watching it, I was a hardcore fan, and I was like, man, this thing is going on and on. Like, how many seasons are they gonna do? And they have all these spinoffs and stuff. So I kind of left it alone. But right now I'm really into Ozark. So Breaking Bad, like you said, is like one of my top like favorite series. But I think Ozark is also very well written.
Man, and we don't have long to the last episodes come out of Ozark. It's like next weekend or something, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm counting, because there's like nothing to watch for me right now. So I'm just like I feel down, because I'm like, everybody's like, well, I'm watching this show and this show, and I'm like, I'm sitting here waiting for Jason Bateman to beat the crap out of this drug lord.
Wait,
we get.
I didn't watch the last episode of the last one because I'm saving it until they bring out the other ones. So I didn't see the last episode of what's going on now. So don't tell me if you're gonna spoil it.
No. I wasn't gonna
Okay.
spoil. I don't spoil on
Okay.
here because I did that once and I got so much hate. It was terrible. But
Okay.
I will tell you this, Mariah. The last episode of Ozark, before you watch the new one, you're gonna watch it. It is the craziest thing I've ever seen in a TV show. Because I was
Okay.
literally watching it and I went, "Oh my God," like I screamed and was just like having a fit. I was like,
Woo!
there is no way. And you're gonna feel the same way when whatever happens, because you're like, you didn't see it coming. Now what the F is gonna
Oh
happen
my God.
next?
You're gonna make me watch it tonight. I don't. I'm gonna save it. Because like the last episodes prior to that with the wife, I was like, oh my gosh, like it kind of gave me vibes of like Breaking Bad, of how they switched the role of the character. Because like with Walter White, you're like at first you feel sorry for him. Oh, he has cancer. Oh my gosh, this is horrible. And then you're like, man, this dude is a gangster. Like he's going around killing people. So it's amazing how writing can make you feel this like emotional, roller coaster of liking someone and then hating them. They're villain, then they're the victim. And so I think that's really what makes a great series.
And they also make it feel like it's real life, like it's happening in time right now. Like Ozark's the same way. I'm like, I could go over to Missouri and I'm gonna find Jason Bateman over there, go to the fish shop. He's gonna be laundering the money.
Right. That's hilarious.
Well,
Yeah.
well, Mariah, I got one big question for you, because you're a personal chef and you're just a chef, just in general. But do you ever get offended if someone says, "Make me a steak," and they do a steak? You create them this perfect steak that you consider top tier, and they eat it with A1 sauce?
Not anymore. It used to irritate the hell out of me. Like I would get so, or if they want it, cooked well done, or just as a culinarian, certain things you just don't do, So at first it would rub me the wrong way, but over time I've come to realize that people like what they like, I can't take it personally if someone wants to douse my beautifully cooked filet mignon that I basted with butter with ketchup. I can't say anything about it. So just I can't be offended anymore. But there are certain things when it comes to the rules of cooking that can rub you the wrong way a little bit. But most of the times when you are hired on as a private chef, you're hired on because the clients are not foodies. They're not, fancy, people who are in the kitchen or cooking. Otherwise, they wouldn't probably hire you. So you kind of have that going in, knowing that you're here to provide a service and also to educate them on food and cuisine as well. So some people are open to it. It's like, try it first. Try it before you put ketchup on it. And then if you don't, and then try it with the ketchup. So some people are open to doing that.
What's the reasoning behind it? I don't want to go into this whole history, but I've always just curious. It tastes better to me, but what's the reasoning for a steak having to be medium rare to be considered, top tier, or the way you want a steak prepared?
I think that's all about preference, because I've been told too sometimes it's medium, and then it depends on the cut of meat. So like if you have a Kobe Wagyu, you want that sucker to be super rare, because it's so much love and care with the quality of the meat, from how they're feeding the cows, how they're raising them. And so you have all these flavors that are developed as the cow is maturing. And so putting sauce or something on it, you're kind of disrespecting the meat. You're disrespecting the cow. You don't want to cover all these false flavors, because the whole point of this delicious cut of meat is to enjoy it for the purity behind it.
How do you get the surname Chef, like Chef Mariah? Do you just go into is it kind of like when you get like the surname Doctor? Do you have to go through these series of tests and courses in order to advance and graduate to be called a chef? Or could I just go into the kitchen, make up a bomb grilled cheese, and then call myself Chef Dylan because I made a grilled cheese?
Oh gosh, you're asking a loaded question. That is something that is always talked about with home cooks, chefs, executive chefs. I think being called a chef is something that you do have to earn. Personally, I've spoke to home cooks, and I was a home cook before I became a professional chef, who are offended. They're like, well, I cook too. Why can't I be called a chef? But personally, I think it's a title that is earned, not something that's given. I don't think that just because you watch YouTube videos and you know how to dice an onion that you should call yourself a chef. It's a title to be earned, and a lot of sometimes I'm hesitant with even calling myself a chef, because I consider myself to be more than a chef. I'm really into culture and the education aspect with food and the aesthetics of plating. And so sometimes when I think of chef, I feel like it kind of just involves being in the kitchen, but a lot of my process happens outside of the kitchen. So I think I'm then a chef. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a sticky, that's a sticky situation depending on who you talk to. But I think it's definitely a title that you should earn. I don't think you should just go around calling yourself a chef.
Okay, another question. How do you earn the name chef? Is it just by going to culinary school and graduating, or is it like, you have to make it to this level before?
I think it comes with education and experience.
Okay.
I think those two are probably the biggest contributors to being able to call yourself a chef. Yeah, education and experience for sure.
Now, did you go to culinary school, Mariah?
I did. I did go to culinary school. I a degree with honors in culinary arts, and also currently pursuing nutrition as well.
Now, here is a question that could be considered. I don't know. I just heard people say this a lot. Like, because I love to cook, and it's like I always want to go to culinary school, but people are like, that's a waste of time and money because the stuff you learn at culinary school you can learn online or you can just teach yourself. So do you think personally, being a person and a chef that's went to culinary school, that culinary school is could be a waste of time and or money?
It's a great question, and people ask me that all the time. I decided to go to culinary school, and it's interesting because I was not necessarily against it, but it was never something I really wanted to do because of how expensive it is. And I'm like, man, culinary school is expensive, you know. And I've worked with people, actually before I went to culinary school, I was teaching cooking classes, and worked with another chef who was still paying off student loans at this really high end culinary school. And I'm like, we're in the same job. You're like, you know, in debt with culinary school. I'm like, man, I don't know if this is something I want to do. But I also at the time didn't have any restaurant experience, and didn't, based on the career I was in, I didn't want to start from the bottom. And usually, you know, culinary, you're dishwashing, you're chopping onions. I'm like, I need a crash course in the basics of cuisine and culinary. Like, I already know how to cook. That's not something you can learn in culinary school. Either you know how to cook or you don't. You know what I mean? Either you're passionate about it, it's a natural thing, but that's not what they teach you in culinary school. They teach you technique, the classic French, you know, way of how the kitchen works, the mother sauces, what to do if something breaks, what to do, you know, how to serve different courses and a la carte, nutrition, how to run a restaurant. So for me, it was a crash course. And I went full time, you know, back to back, semester, and just overloaded myself. So for me, it was the right choice. But other, you know, people work their way up in a restaurant, and I think there's pros and cons to both situations. You know, I know people who work in restaurants who've never went to culinary school, but they don't know, you know, certain safety and sanitation measures because of not having that foundation. So I think it's a personal choice, but I also think that there are ways to get education where you don't have to go into debt.
Now, how do you learn personally, like when you were going through culinary school? Are you a type of person that like needs someone that's just, okay, it's fine, you're good, you can get it, or you could be like Gordon Ramsay. No, you dumbass, you need to cook it fine. How which way do you prefer to learn?
Don't yell at me. First of all, turn off. But I'm a hands-on type of person. So if someone tells me how to do something, what I need to do, I can make it happen. Um, I'm a visual learner, so I think being in the classroom for me was the best way for me to learn. You know, by messing up, by overcooking something or burning myself. It's like, okay, I'm not going to do that again. So that's how I learn.
So I want to ask a couple of questions, like everybody does, about Next Level Chef. Not I don't want to
Oh,
get into I don't want to get into the details of how crap works. I don't care. That's the reason I watch it, because I don't know how it works. I don't want to know.
okay.
But I do I do want to ask a couple of questions though, because for me, I'm pretty sure it's a reality show, and a lot of stuff is happening. So there's got to be a lot of tough situations. But for me, the toughness would probably have to come from the mentality of,
Mm.
how did you keep yourself mentally strong and mentally positive during this kind of, don't want to use the word overwork, because it's a reality show, but like you're doing everything, there's surprises that you don't know what you're going to cook, then you have to figure out, oh well, what goes good with this and what's going to, you know what I mean, like, so how was the positivity stayed in the mindset for you?
You're First of all, you're absolutely right. But it's mental.
Mm.
You know, the cooking aspect as a chef, you know, everyone on the competition, if you cook, you know, and you do it well, that's the easy part. It's the pressure of the mental strain, the surprises, like you said, the pressure, and your mind, like you said, it can play tricks on you. And if you start doubting yourself, that's when you'll start to lose the competition, because it is reflecting your performance. So for me, I meditated every day. Every episode I was outside. I kind of separated myself from the rest of the cast. And that was for me personally, for me to stay focused and to stay in the game, I had to do that. And that's just how I operate. And I just had to keep telling myself and reminding myself why I was there, and that I had everything in me already to succeed and win the competition. So it was just positive reinforcements, having daily affirmations, and just be like, you know what, Mariah, you got this. Like, do your best. That's all you can do.
So I remember watching the show, and then it would be supposedly you were there for like 6 weeks. But were you
Yeah.
guys filming an episode once a week? Like not the back interviews where you're talking about the situation going down, but actually in the competition cooking. Were you there once a week, or was it kind of like an everyday thing?
No, it was like probably 4 days out the week. We were shooting. Well, it's kind of hard to say. Maybe more than once a week though. In between episodes, it would be interview days. But it was definitely more than one time a week we were shooting episodes. So yeah, every day we were cooking. Even, on interview days, there was still a lot of pressure because you had to revisit what have happened, prior.
Okay,
So
I
it
want
was
to
just a
stop. I want to stop you right there, Mark,
oh,
because no, I have a question about that. I've always wondered how they do these. Not know how they do the interviews, but you said that you would do the interview and then you would have to relive what would happen. So you're
yeah.
basically talking in the interview that you're doing the day after or 2 days after as it's happening. So are you having to go off of memory of what's happening, or are they showing you clips and you're kind of just reacting in real time of how that's happening?
Oh gosh, it's all I didn't see we didn't see anything until America saw it. So we didn't see any clips. Sometimes the interviews happened right after filming. So, if someone went, for instance, can I talk about something
Oh,
like that happened on the
go. Floor is
um
yours.
okay. So for instance, when I was in the elimination round,
Yes.
and I sent someone home, right after they pulled me into the interview room because they want to capture that real emotion, you know. Um, and so it just really depends. So at that particular point, it's like you could speak to it easily. But if it happened late, I mean, our days were long. You're talking like 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. sometimes, of being in a green room all day and mentally drained and stressed. So sometimes you're sitting for a few hours and then they will pull you into the interview room and you're so much going on. And it's like, okay, wait, what happened? That was today? Oh my gosh. So yeah, you have to constantly revisit emotions. And I think that adds to the pressure as well.
Now, you mentioned this, and I was going to bring this up later, but let's go ahead and hit it now. You
Sure.
basically you got into the elimination because you forgot to put your plated, your food basically that you cooked on the podium before it rose up. Which that has to
That
be a
was
head
a setup.
that.
That was a setup.
But with that,
Oh
that
man.
that has to be a headache in itself because you're thinking, okay, I have like, because how I would do it is I'm like, I have 15 seconds to make it from here to here, but I think I could do this, you know, the little you put the sesame seeds on top or whatever you want to do. I think I could do this in 5 seconds, but in actuality, you can only do it in 15. You have 15 seconds to make it from your station to the elevator that rises up. So when you do that and you're like, damn, my play didn't make it, I'm screwed. Kind of, what was the biggest lesson that you learned there, or the biggest thought that you always had in the back of your mind after you went to elimination and you were saved?
So the interesting thing about that episode was that particular circumstance when we were in the basement had a very kind part of me. I got out of competition mode and I was a good Samaritan because I let Jonathan
Mm-hmm.
take the station that was closest to the platform. And that has been my strategy throughout the competition. I was like, I need to make that'll give me, like you said, an extra 10, 15 seconds. And that particular time, Jonathan was like, oh, can I have this? I was like, oh yeah, it's fine. But the competition Mariah would be like, nope, this is my station. So, which put me in that station in the corner. And if you go through the episodes and watch, anybody who was in that location always almost missed the platform. And that happened on 3 different episodes. You can't really hear anything where I was located. And so, and then there's no timers, there's no clocks. So you have to constantly ask time, time. And so I didn't hear when he said it was time to start plating, because I was already ready. I had all my components, my mise en place. And so I was over my plate ready to go, but you can't start plating until you have 2 minutes. And so I'm waiting. I'm like, okay, time. And when Richard Blais said time, I thought it was time to start plating, but the platform was already coming down. So there was a miscommunication. Yeah. And from that moment on, I said, I'm no more Mrs. Nice Guy. Like, I'm not letting nobody take my station, and I'm never going back to this corner ever again. And you can see after that episode, I was always closest to the platform.
And I remember Richard, like the following episode, Richard Blais calling you and be like, "Nice to be right there next to the to the levelator, whatever you want to call that thing."
Yeah.
But it's funny to hear the story of how your personal story of what's happening versus what the producers want to show. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it could have come off that you're just not listening, you're just not doing this, you're just in a mode.
Right.
But to actually think that there's no clock, there's no timer, you're just listening to Richard Blais or Ramsay or Aisha Harrington, whoever your person, you're listening to them saying, do this, do this, do this, do this. I'm pretty sure that because when I do stuff, I shut people off all the time. Not on purpose, but it's just my mind is set on something. And if I'm talking, I'm not going to do the thing that I'm set on.
Right. And I was so laser focused, and because I was so ready to go, and I may have not heard him. You know, I honestly, to this, even after that episode, I was like, when Richard Blais was like so irritated with me, he's like, "Oh my gosh, Mariah, no." I'm like, I was like, did he say it? And I was asking the producers, I was like, and still to this day, I'm like, did I just not hear? Or I mean, was I so laser focused, you know? And maybe I was so laser focused that I was in the zone. And like you said, I just ignored all the outside noise, which was a huge mistake in that circumstance.
What was
But I knew it when I missed it. I was like, I'm going into elimination. Like, I didn't know they were going to taste my dish, but I already knew that I was going into elimination.
But also the pain that you had to feel when they tasted your food, and all three chefs were like, "This was the best dish of the night." I mean, that had to have been like, you could have heard a pin drop in the floor, because it was just, I can't imagine the pain. You were just like, "Damn it, I had it. This was my night," and I walked under the ladder before tonight happened, and I just struck bad luck.
Yeah, it was a moment of where it was just like, dang, like, I've been striving so hard. Every week I was like so close to having top dish. Every week. You know, I was never in the bottom. And so for the week to happen where it's like the dish I didn't get on could have won top dish. Like really, guys? Is that what you're really gonna do to me? Like, okay, so I just had to swallow it and keep it moving. You know, I couldn't get stuck in a place of regret or remorse. I just had to and that's why I accepted it. I was like, okay, I already know I'm going into elimination. It's fine.
What is Richard Blais like as like a mentor? Because he was your guy, he was yours and a couple of other people's mentor on the team, throughout the whole competition. So what was he? He seems like a cool guy.
He is. He's very chill. Richard Blais is very. We had a moment. We had a vibe because I feel like our minds work the same way, and I think that happened on the episode where he's like, "Mariah, you have a whole bunch of stuff going on." I'm like, "I know. That's how my mind works." And he's like, "My mind works like that too." And so that's where we kind of connected, to where we developed this trust, this unsaid trust. I would ask for his opinion. I would give him mine, and he would let me go with what I wanted to do. So I appreciate him trusting my ideas, because that doesn't happen very often. He's very creative, and I think creative people understand other creative people.
Now, is your days more chaotic now that that your face has been seen on national television? Because obviously it was probably chaotic before, but do you see more chaos in the wanting interviews, or just people wanting to stop you in the street and talk to you?
It is a little chaotic. I got to think twice about how I go to the grocery store.
Really?
I'm like, oh yeah. Yeah. I was in the grocery store a couple weeks ago, and this lady was, all up on me, and I saw her taking pictures of me. And I was like, what's up? Like, did you just take a picture of me? And she's like, I don't, are you from that show? You know, I was like, yeah, you know, and so it happens. I was at the airport a couple weeks ago in Phoenix. This man stopped me and I had a mask on. And he stopped me in the airport and was like, you know, were you on a cooking show? And I was like, yeah, you know, me and my wife love you, take a picture. So it's like I can't go out looking crazy because people do recognize me, which is weird. Dating, that's a whole different conversation. But yeah, my schedule has been extremely busy. I'm doing a lot of consulting right now. A lot of people have been asking why I haven't been posting a lot of cooking videos. Is because I'm doing a lot of behind the scenes work. I'm building menus for restaurants right now. I am planning menus for a couple months down the line. I have a couple new clients that I'm really excited to work with. I've actually, my newest mentor is Iron Chef Kat Cora, who I had the pleasure of being her sous chef for her event that she did with Curtis Stone a few weeks ago. Hopefully I'll be able to work with her moving forward as her sous chef for events. But yeah, I cooked for the Oscars a couple weeks ago, which was amazing with Wolfgang Puck's team. So a lot of opportunities have been presenting themselves and I'm just rolling with it, you know?
There also has to, you know, whoever, you know, the screaming chef guy, he come in last place, got with the long beard, you know. But it doesn't matter what place you come in, because there has to be some opportunity for everybody on that show, because you know, you could have been the worst chef there, but you were better than a lot of the other people that, you know, signed up to do the show, you know, and you were the 14, 15, however many that were picked, you know, so there has to be a lot of opportunity for everybody there.
You would think so. I mean, honestly, there were 50,000 applicants for
Yeah.
that show. 50,000 people applied. And I mean, it took 8 to 9 months for the interview process for them to weed out, you know, even when we showed up to the first episode, there were extra people that they had there that they were weeded out again once we arrived. So to even be a part of the show was just an honor and a privilege. And like you said, there's opportunities for everyone, but the real question is, what are you going to do with it? And where do you see yourself going? Um, I know what I'm going to do and I know what I want to do with my culinary, you know. There are a lot of opportunities that are outside of the kitchen. So that was a great platform for me to um, kind of, you know, let people know who I am as a chef and my personality as well, because as a private chef, there it's very personal. You're cooking in people's kitchens. And so personality is important as a private chef, more so than if you work in a restaurant where you're on the line or something like that.
Cool. So, Mariah, as we kind of wind down here, a few more minutes with
Yeah.
you, I do this thing every podcast, and it kind of gets the mind going, and it's called first question, first answer. So I just got a list of questions here that I make up inside of my mind here, and I shoot them off, and I want to get the first answer that pops into your brain. You cool with that?
Okay. All right.
All right. What is one question? You obviously you're doing this a lot. These types of interviews a lot. What's one question you know you're going to get asked when doing these interviews?
About missing the platform because I was the only person on the whole show who missed the platform. Yeah.
What's one question you know you're never going to get asked? A question or a topic you know you're never going to get asked, and you're like, man, I just wish they would ask me about this.
One question I wish people would ask. I don't have an answer to that.
Okay.
What question do I wish people would ask me? Maybe, oh, well, maybe more about my family background and about my inspiration with food and kind of how it formed and developed, maybe.
So, of what I did research on of you, Maria, you kind of got into culinary. Was it because your grandmother passed away in a car wreck? Is that right? Kind of that's why you stopped doing and going to cooking? Is that not right? Right?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that fueled me to pursue it more heavily, for sure.
So what
Yeah,
is
the path.
what is Mariah's genesis? When you look back, what is the genesis of you, your family?
We were a very close-knit family. And it's funny because I talked a lot about this on the show, but they didn't show that, which is interesting. But I come from a very close family. However, my grandmother was the nucleus of the family. You know, we used to always have celebrations and eat and have great times. A lot of my family is in California. And when my grandmother passed, it happened unexpectedly. She was driving home from church, ran off the road, hit a tree, and died instantly. And so it was such a devastating thing, and it broke up the dynamic of my family. She was healthy, it was unexpected, and I was flying, and I was kind of getting to the point of being a flight attendant to where it wasn't bringing me as much joy as experiencing the food scene when I would fly. So they were competing against each other, and that just motivated me to be like, life is short. Like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I love traveling and stuff, but food is so much more important to me. And I'm gonna take a leap of faith, and I enrolled in culinary school.
Now, where did you said that, food was your calling. Where like how and where did you end up saying, "Oh, I know I can cook"? Did you learn it from your mother, your grandmother? Kind of how did that unravel?
Well, my mom cooked as a mom, just to feed her kids. She wasn't a chef or anything like that. We come from a very modest background. So she cooked bulk meals to feed a family. I have three brothers. Um, my grandmother cooked with love, and so everything she cooked was amazing, and her food brought so much joy. So having the connection of how food brings people together is really kind of what's really contributed to my food journey. Um, when I was a lot younger, I was like the only one of all my friends that had their own apartment. And so everyone would come over to my house. I would make all these, elaborate meals and grill, and we would hang out. And I was like, man, this is like a vibe. Like, food is like, can save the world. Like, it's so dope, and how people are so much open and willing to just kind of disregard certain things that may normally separate you. But when you put a good plate of food in front of someone, it's a great time. And so for me, that was the beginning of it, and seeing how powerful food was, and also how good I was at developing flavor.
Right. Now, what for you? I know it's different for everybody, but for you personally, what's the hardest part about preparing food or cooking? Is it just like what goes together? Obviously, you probably know what goes together now, like the back of your hand. But
Mhm.
what's the hardest part for you when it comes to cooking?
For me, the hardest part is not overwhelming myself because I have so many ideas. And so, I mean, I keep a notebook with me. I'm inspired by everything. I even have a notepad in my shower. I found this waterproof notepad on Amazon because I get some of my best ideas when I'm in the shower.
Mhm.
And so for me, it's about simplifying and saying, okay, Mariah, focus on this dish, because I just have so many ideas, because I'm constantly inspired by an ingredient, by a person that I met. Like, I had my nails done last week, and my nail technician was like giving me game on how to make real legit pho. And so I'm like, dang, I need to go to the Asian market and make some pho. But I need to just chill a little bit and execute one idea at a time. So for me, that's probably being creative is a blessing and also a curse.
What for you is one thing, like food wise, that you have to have? Not something that you have to cut and cook, but like maybe like a snack or something that you have to have at all times because it's just you love it so much, or you can't have one, you just have to indulge in everything.
Oh gosh, I love potato chips. Oh, I love potatoes. Like, I love chips, and that's going to be the end of me. Like, chips and salsa, chips and queso. I love salty, crunchy things with texture. On the health side, I like hummus with cucumber slices. But yeah, definitely something salty.
What type of potato chips? Like what brand of potato chips is your favorite brand of potato chips?
I like kettle chips.
Kettle chip, yeah. But for me, they have to be the original kettle chips. Get the barbecue, get all that out of here. It has to be the
Oh,
original kettle.
You just like the salt, the ones with salt? That's it?
Just the original. Yep. I
Oh,
I I have never been a fan of barbecue flavored potato chips, sour cream and onion. Never. I just I am kind of a plain like a plain Jane, I guess, I assume.
wow. I can do plain potato chips if I'm eating like a burger or something. But yeah, I can't just, if I'm just eating chips by itself, they have to have a flavor. So that's interesting.
Now, are you always cooking like do you always cook for yourself or you just like, you know what, screw it today, I'm just going to get takeout? Like kind of how do you prepare food for yourself because obviously you're not going to cook a gourmet meal for yourself or are you?
It depends. Sometimes I do. Like the other day, I
Okay.
made myself some ravioli stuffed with burrata and basil and grilled some chicken breast. So it just depends if I have the time. I am a little extra, you know, if I'm at home, I'll put some candles on the table and have a glass of wine and a gourmet meal. Um, I don't do a lot of takeout. I do cook the majority of my meals, but I do like to go out. And I think being a chef too, I think, and I do a lot of consulting. I think part of the job is to go out and experience what other restaurants are doing, sample dishes, because that is also a great opportunity to be inspired by ingredients that I may not have used otherwise. So I
Last
do
la-
try to go out.
last couple of questions for you, Mariah. First one would be like when I watch, you know, Gordon Ramsay cook or Wolfgang Puck, anyone that are on that upper tier level, they are cooking these things, and I have never heard of this shit before in my life. I'm like, I don't know what this is. I don't know where to find it. Were you kind of in that position as well, and then you just kind of got more knowledge of it, and you learned where to find it, how to get it, how to cook it?
Yes. So that actually happened during an episode with when I did the smoked lamb and I had finger limes
Okay.
and I grabbed them. I've never, I know what a finger lime is, but I've never worked with a finger lime. They're very seasonal and they're very regional where you can purchase them. So I asked Richard Blais, like, you know, can you, he's like, you want me to show you how to do it? And he showed me and it's like, okay, you know, you try it, you taste it. If you know food, if you know, something needs acid, you're able to exchange and replace certain ingredients with substitutes of things that you may not be familiar with. And so that is something that I'm good at doing. If you have a basic foundation knowledge of food, I think you can work with any ingredient.
With being a chef, what has been the biggest lesson or the one thing someone has told you that has just, you know, led your life? You live by what they've told you.
Mm. I would say the first thing that comes to mind is a quote that Chris Shepard, who's a James Beard award-winning chef, he's well known here in Houston. He has tons of restaurants here, Underbelly. He does a lot of nonprofit organizations helping chefs, especially through the pandemic. He's raised a lot of funds to help the restaurant industry. But he had a cookbook party a couple years ago that I had the opportunity to cook for. And he shared something with me that stuck in it was always be a student of the game. You will never know it all. And he said, if you keep that with you as a chef, you'll be okay. You know, you'll never know it all. And I think that resonates with me because I have ran into a lot of chefs of where you know, say you're in a specific cuisine, you know, you're the expert in this cuisine and they have no desire to learn about anything else. And for me, that's kind of like, well, you don't know it all. And just because you are an expert in this particular cuisine doesn't mean you can't expand your knowledge. So I think it just comes with educating yourself and being open because like with food, fashion, culture, things evolve, things change. And so you have to kind of keep yourself present with everything that's going on around you. So be a student of the game because you'll never know it all.
Last question for Mariah. I'm going to say this. Give me just a second because the question is going to be kind of lengthy. But you know, one of my favorite authors is Malcolm Gladwell. He wrote this book, and it was David and Goliath. You know, kind of
Hmm.
how kind of how David was supposed to defeat Goliath a certain way, but he went around the corner and figured out another way to achieve it. And so the question would be for you, what's one thing that you should have done one way, but you cut corners and you figured out another way to do it and it was successful?
Mm. Wow. I would say, I don't necessarily have one scenario. I think in general, I wouldn't say cutting corners. I'm very strategic. And so I like to work backwards sometimes. So for me, it kind of streamlines the process because I'm able to visualize a plate, how it will look, and then work backwards from there. Okay, how do I need to get here? And so sometimes that simplifies the process. Whereas if you're starting from the beginning, sometimes you're thinking too far ahead. And so for me, it's about working backwards and centering in on the process. I think is what helps me kind of streamline the process with cooking.
Well, Mariah, we've been doing this almost an hour. I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining in because this is going to be the worst interview you'll probably ever have in your
Wait,
life. What'd you say? I didn't hear you.
why? Why is it the worst one? I don't understand.
I'm not good at this. I ask questions that no one would ever ask. Like that. That's go around it.
That's good though, right? I mean, it's good. I thought it was great. I thought it was a great interview. Yeah, I
Okay.
think you did
Well,
good.
well, I appreciate that. I've took up an hour of your time. Now you can have as much time as you want to promote anything, social media, whatever you want to talk about right now. Put it out on the plate
Okay.
right now.
Check out my brand new YouTube channel, which I'm super excited about. They call the Win Mariah. And it's just gonna be like my ultimate dream is to have my own show. And so I'm gonna start with what I have, which is my iPhone, and I'm just gonna shoot some stuff and share with everyone how I'm inspired in the kitchen. Um, and it's gonna be a little bit of culture, a little travel, but we're also gonna make like tons of great recipes using ingredients that anyone can find in the store. So that launches this week. All the links are on my Instagram, which is I_am_Mariah. Follow me on there and check out all the juicy stuff that I got going on.
Mariah, I can't go on about how much I appreciate you coming on here. It really does mean a lot to me, and I really am a fan of you, and I was a fan of the show when it come on. I'm ready for season 2 and ready to see all the success that you're going to have coming off of this.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. I had a great time.
All right. If you have anything else coming up, in the next year or so, we'll get you back on the podcast and we'll continue our chats on here.
Oh yeah, it's not over. This is just the beginning, So we just getting started. So absolutely, I would love to come back.
All right, Mariah, thank you very much. Once this goes up in the next week or two, I will put it up on Instagram. I'll tag you and I'll send it through the email and stuff like that, just so you know that it's up.
Okay, sounds great.
All right, appreciate it, Mariah. You have a good day now.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you very much.